Okay, welcome to everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. I would like to say thank you to Angela Pericleous Smith. Sorry, Angela, for my pronunciation. And we are going to start this interview. We are going to speak about infertility and IVF with donation. So, Angela, thank you so much again. And could you please tell me what BICA is and what is your role into BICA and how you support the donor conception families?
Okay. Hi, thank you for inviting me today. It's brilliant to be here and to see you. You did perfect with my name, Angela Pericleous Smith.
Thank you.
I'm the current chair of BICA, which is the British Infertility Counselling Association. We are the only recognised counselling association in the UK specifically for infertility, recognised by the HFEA, who regulate licensed clinics, and the British Fertility Society. We were actually established in 1988, which is over 30 years ago now, when the Parliament was drawing up legislation on reproductive medicine. We played an active role in the development of counselling in the HFEA Act in 1990. So we have counsellors are our members. Counsellors, psychologists, psychotherapists are our members, and we act as a professional organisation. We have our own accreditation system to help to raise our standards of the counsellors and psychotherapists in providing counselling provision to individuals and couples seeking out counselling or counselling through their clinic. So in terms of donation families, here in the UK, if individuals or couples are seeking treatment with gamete donation, egg, embryos or sperm donation treatment, we have counselling to kind of talk through the emotional and psychosocial implications of donation treatment and what the impact will be.
Good. Thank you so much. And also people from other countries could become a member of BICA.
Absolutely. We currently have a membership of around 200 people, and we approximately have around 15 to 20 people of overseas members.
Okay, good. Very interesting. So, as I spoke to you previously, in Italy, donor conception families are quite new because access to the IVF with donation became legal only in 2014. So it's yesterday for us. Therefore, couples who decide to undertake the step have a lot of questions. When they decide to do IVF with donation, in any case, they have a lot of questions. One common question is, will I love a child even if I don't have a genetic bond with him or her? What would you answer to this question? How you support, your family, and what would you like to say to us today?
Okay, well, firstly, I think what I would like to say is that is an extremely common question, even in the UK, even in 2021, after the many, many years we have been carrying out donor conception treatment. That is a very natural and common question. And I think it's about working with the individual or couple and really kind of exploring what it is for them and what their relationships are like with other people, what their relationships are like with other children, their friends, their best friends' children, for example. One thing I really like to remind couples of is they are not genetically related to each other, but they still love each other. So husband and wife, they're no genetic relation, but they still love each other. People here in the UK, cats and dogs, animals, very much part of their family, very much part of their family, but there is no genetic connection whatsoever. They're not even human. So I would normally start looking at what it means for people. Do you really need a genetic connection to be able to love a child?
Yeah, it is the same here when I speak with my couples, And there is no conclusive evidence that telling how a donor conceived person is born is better than not telling. Could you please let us know what your position is about this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, it's interesting you say no conclusive evidence, because really it is very difficult to measure. How do you measure that? What we do know is there is lots of studies and lots of longitudinal studies that do demonstrate that it is better for children to be aware that they were donor conceived. It's better for their emotional and psychological development, that they're aware, and their well-being. And there's lots of longitudinal studies, there's lots of studies, there's lots of personal stories out there. And in the UK, the whole reason the anonymity law changed as well, part of that was kind of the campaign for every person does have a right to know where they've come from.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think our identity is made also by the genetic part. Of course, the relation is most important, but in any case, also our genetic identity it's made also from this information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know that here in Italy, and I think that's something that also you have seen in when you treat your couples, are concentrated on the desire of and of having a child, and they do not think about the child's future questions. They are more concentrated on themselves. For example, couples may be scared by the fact that one day their child could search the donor. What would you like to say to these couples?
Okay. Again, that's very common as well. I think it's also very common for individuals and couples to be focused on a pregnancy, on achieving a pregnancy, and not necessarily the longer term implications of of creating a donor conceived family. It's very common. They've already been through a lot of loss and grief.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason in the UK we have the implications counselling, as we call it here, to kind of open up that exploration of what it might be like in the future. In the UK, all donors are registered. They don't have any anonymity.
Yeah.
So when a child reaches 18, they can have identifiable information about their donor. So if they did want to seek their donor out, that would be something we really explore with the couple, how they might perceive that is going to be for them. And I guess one of the things I've seen that comes up in the studies and research is that when donor conceived children are seeking out their donors, it tends to be something they do in conjunction with their parents, as opposed to in secrecy.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the UK, because we advocate, if you like, for openness with donor conceived children, it makes sense that if you're going to be open with your child from a very early age, and donor conception can be talked about in your family unit, whenever your child has questions, then it makes sense, if the child is curious about finding their donor, then it would be the parents they want to work with to look for the donor. But importantly, they are seeking out a donor, as opposed to adoption when they're seeking out birth parents. Does that make sense?
Okay, it's really interesting, and I agree. And many companies offer DNA testing, and it's something new for Italy. It's very new. I think that for UK it's not so new, and as it's a question that you have already answered, but a child in the future and already adult now could accidentally discover that she is a donor conceived person. I'm speaking for Italy, for instance, because in Italy there is the anonymity. What do you think about how is the DNA testing revolutionating the search for the genetic connection by donor conceived children? I'm speaking about the countries how are as like Italy, where it's not given the opportunity to have an open donor. Do you think that this kind of agency are going to change the law in Europe because of this DNA testing agency?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do think it is. Is there really any such thing as anonymity of donors anymore when we have the way DNA has evolved, DNA testing has evolved? My understanding is there's over 40 million people on the databases, and a donor does not necessarily have to be on the database. It could be any genetic relative of the donor, or one of the other donor conceived children from the same donation, and that will throw up a match. So in 2021 and beyond, is there really any such thing as anonymity? And is it now time that other countries need to be regulating donation?
I'm very curious about UK because the donors are open now in UK. Do you think that the number of donor is decreased?
I think initially when anonymity was first lifted in 2004-5, I think donors did decrease initially, and certainly we started to see some really long waiting lists for egg donation, etc. But no, if anything, what I think has happened now is that the donors are giving careful, serious considerations to the implications of donation. But it being open ID, because they are aware that somebody may come and seek them out in the future.
Okay,
I think
that the counseling, when there is the donor, interview with the donor, with the possible donor, must be deeper. I mean, in the case in which they become open donor, in the future. So I think that we will need also to learn about how to do the counseling to people that want to become a donor. And the selection, I think that must be, different and deeper, I think.
Yeah, and I guess it's about the exploration again, about and thinking about the future again. It's okay to donate now, but what's the impact in 5 years' time, 10 years, 20 years' time? If the donor has their own children, and then they're going to have potentially donor conceived offspring out there, there's serious considerations for them to make in terms of telling their own family about their donation as well. So there is an awful lot for donors to consider prior to donating.
What advice would you give to a counselor, a psychologist who work in Italy and are managing donor conceived families in a culture that has some prejudice on the IVF with donation? what would you like to say to us? Because we need some advice. You have more experience than us, and you know, you have now a different law. So what would you like to say to us?
I think, firstly, it's very difficult, isn't it, when there's change? When there's change, it's very difficult because for each of us, it takes a long time for change to be implemented, and it takes a long time for us to fully embrace change. What I would like to say, particularly to counsellors and psychologists and psychotherapists, is just like your core training when you're working in any other field, you come from a very non-judgmental place.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with a person in front of you, it's not about your belief system, your ethics, etc. It's about the person sat in front of you, and the person sat in front of you who's potentially forming a family through donation. This is their life that is going to be impacted, not yours. Even in the UK, it took many years for people to truly embrace the change, particularly about openness and openness with children. So that will come slowly. But I think for me, it's about trying to remember it's the person sat in front of you and what's important and right for their life. And we cannot forget the studies that have already been done in the UK.
Yeah.
Which is leading to the change of openness and non-anonymous donation.
Yeah. I have another question that is coming now. So because the law in UK was in 2004 and 5, the donor become open. So now the children are not yet ready to meet the donors if they decide, because I think will be in 2022, 2023. Right? So you don't know yet how the impact is or how will be, right?
Absolutely, yes. In the UK, it's going to be 2023. So we're starting in the UK to prepare for that in 2023. But what we do know already is that for donors pre the law change, when it was anonymous, they are able to come forward and identify themselves now.
Yeah.
And what we do know is that register, there has been matches, there has been donor conceived children who have been curious and interested in finding their donor, and there have been previously anonymous donors willing to come forward and identify themselves. So there's a desire there. And again, from the genetic consumer DNA test, what we do know is that people are seeking out their donors, and particularly donor siblings.
Yeah.
So siblings in particular are already being sought out, even though we in the UK, we have not yet reached the 2023 availability.
I have found a donor register in UK that all the siblings did the DNA test to meet each other in some kind of way and to know each other. So this kind of knowledge of each other is already started in some kind of way.
Yes.
I think it's quite natural, but for us in Italy, it seems something really new and really interesting to know what happened. So Angela, I'm really happy for this interview. Thank you so much to have answered to all these questions, and I hope to have the opportunity to meet you in the real life one day. And would you like to add anything else for helping us to become better? Because I think that we need to be in some kind of way ready to no, to accept also the future, because the future will be tomorrow, and maybe also in Italy, I don't know when, maybe in the future, the anonymity will be not an anonymity because of this DNA agency. So we need to be prepared also to that. And I think we need to prepare couples about that this kind of, anonymity, it's something that is not so anonymity, could be not so an anonymity.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Angela, and talk with you soon, because maybe we could organize other interviews in the future with some specific subject. Okay?
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, and I'd be delighted to join you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.